I'm David Hunt and welcome to The Art Hunter. Our guest today is a self-taught manipulator of precious metals. His colourful career began in the late teens when he moved to London and worked in the jewellery district called Hatton Garden. Imagine wearing one of his Gothic cathedral rings on your finger. He is dedicated to his career and he wants to make pieces with soul. And we will name drop as we go along because he has worked on some pretty impressive films, well his jewellery has, and has worked with some big names in the rock business. But we'll get to that later. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce, often known as WLG, meet. Hello William.
Hello David.
And welcome to The Art Hunter.
Thank you.
Now, let's start with your father. He was an inventor and artist, but your mother was an artist as well, back in London?
No, Mum was a painter.
Painter, yeah.
We're all English. Mum was English. She went to art school in England. My father was an electrical engineer. He wasn't so much an artist, but an inventor. He would always, I guess he was quite... I guess he's quite artistic in his own way of solving problems, like mechanical problems.
So when did you realise that you might be interested in jewellery making? I hear you made something for your mother when you were 7, is that right?
Yeah, I made her a ring when I was 7 and out of a bit of metal bent around with a stone glued on top of it.
Yeah.
But I've always liked making things. As far back as I can remember, I've always made things, whether it be a little boat that I've scraped on the ground and made a little boat shape, or stuck a matchstick in the top of it and made a paper sail. I've always made things. So when I left school, which I didn't really do too well at, I saw a job advertised in the newspaper, said make jewellery. So I got the job. And I've done it ever since.
Right, okay. And that was in New Zealand?
That was in New Zealand, yeah.
Right.
And then I moved. Then I was a bit of a rebellious youth, and I was a punk rocker, and it was 1978, and I went to London to be a punk rocker.
Okay. Which was the perfect place to be a punk rocker.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Hatton Garden. I've never heard of it. It's the jewellery district, and that's where you got to really develop your school as a jeweller?
Well, yeah, my dad always said, you want a job, go knocking on doors, and, you've got to be keen for the job, you don't just expect jobs to come. So, I went knocking on doors, and I pretty much spent the whole day knocking on doors in Hatton Garden, and no luck. And then I sort of sat in this doorway at the end of the day and just felt a bit despondent, and one more door was behind me, and I was, here we go. Knocked on the door, and it was this really nice guy called Dave Keating, and he sort of took me under his wing and taught me some really good basic jewellery skills.
Right, okay. But what you do, William, is you're so unique in your style. Did that come early, or did you have to keep on developing your skills as a jeweller, or did you think, being a punk rocker, thought, I'm going to rebel and do something totally different to what all the other jewellers are doing?
Wow. I was rebellious, but I was sort of I just wanted a job back then. Job gave me money, buy beer, go home, drink beer, get up, go to work. So I didn't really think about things like that at the time. I think it was just later years and I was making trade jewellery, pretty much just diamond rings and wedding rings and engagement rings. Yep. Pretty boring, really. But I was probably in my early 30s. I was making trade jewellery, but it was getting very competitive, and I just thought, why don't I just try and make something a bit different? And I made a big skull ring for a friend, and it sold. And I thought, wow, maybe I can actually keep doing this and making my own style.
Yeah.
So it wasn't probably till my probably my late 20s that I actually thought, hey, I can actually do my own thing, do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And make a living out of it.
Right,
I don't have a
okay.
living, but I mean, I'm making a living now because I can pay my bills.
Yeah. So it wasn't, it certainly wasn't an overnight sensation with what you're doing now.
No. And I guess I just make things that I love to see. Like I on my travels, I used to go to places like Prague, and you'd see the amazing architecture and or even things like mechanical things like engines. I just love all, sometimes all the bits, the shapes and stuff. I just love it, and I sort of reproduce it and make things smaller and
a hell of a lot smaller.
Yeah, a lot smaller.
Yeah. Like cathedrals that you make into a ring.
Yes.
But it's so beautiful, William. It must take you hours and hours and hours on every piece. Like a couple of pieces you've got on your fingers now, which we obviously can't see, but I'm sure we'll show them close up. They're actually cathedrals or castles, and they're in the shape of a ring on your finger.
Well, I just love detail, and it wasn't until I started to realise that I was losing my eyesight that I really started to get into detail.
Right.
I mean, now actually I wear these things to make jewellery. It's like.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Because I can see.
And you often see jewellers with like glasses like that on, but you were vain to begin with and thought, I don't need that.
Yeah, funny enough, I was too vain to.
That's the old
also
men
someone
do
said
that.
Also someone said if you start wearing them, you were not going to be able to get off them.
Oh, okay.
Probably like drugs or something.
Well, no, your eyes get used to it.
Yeah, your eyes get used to it, and you can't work without them. But now I'm stuck with them.
Right.
But it's good. I like it.
Because for the fine detail that you do, you need those glasses.
Yeah.
You need those. They're virtually a magnifying glass, aren't they? Yes.
Yeah.
But what about your design? Because it's getting more and more complex and more inventive. You must just sort of be pushing yourself the whole time to come up. Where do you pick up some of the designs, your ideas? Well, you said going to Prague, looking at buildings or an engine.
Yeah. Funny enough, you say that.
You might have something that we.
This book. It's probably the best £9.99 I've ever spent, and it's just full of amazing.
Is that Florentine?
Florentine, and just these scrolls, and I just love the lines. And then the funny thing is, like, I've gone through every page of this book probably 1,000 times.
Yeah.
One day I picked it up upside down.
Yeah.
And I just saw all this other stuff when it's upside down. Yeah, I just love this book. I can always go back to that.
Right. And what about designing it? Do you have? Are you quite a good drawer?
I'm not really, no.
You're not?
No.
So you rely heavily on copying it sort of things in your
my head.
Yeah.
In fact, some of my drawings that I draw are so unrecognisable to what they are.
Yeah.
Quite often, I mean, this is the old days when I used to get on a plane and go to a gem show in Hong Kong or Bangkok, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night because I'm jet lagged, and I would just start drawing pictures, and these ideas would be coming to my head, and I'd just have to do a very quick sketch of this one idea, and then I'd come back and look at these pictures, and I'd remember the thought that was in my head when I drew that picture, even though if someone were to see it, they'd go,
what's that?
Yeah. So I just remember things. I sort of can see in the three-dimensional in my head.
And what did people start to think when you did the skull that was popular, but these architectural rings that you're doing now that you're becoming quite well known for, what did people originally think? Were they accepted, or because they're very bold?
They are bold, yeah. I've had a lot of comments like, "Oh, they're different," or my attitude is like, if you like it, then you like it, and if you don't, you'll just scroll on by and look at something else. Yeah. But they're not everyone's taste. Yeah. But I was in Paris and walking past the big cathedral, whatever it's, Notre Dame. Yep. And they were renovating it at the time, and they had these gargoyles on the ground.
And they would have been huge, I
They're
suppose.
huge, yeah, these big, huge concrete gargoyle, and
Yeah.
I just loved it, and I just could see really. I got my camera and I got really close to the detail on them, which you wouldn't be able to see usually because they're
So high up.
They're so high
Yeah,
up.
Yeah.
And that inspired me to make the first lot of the cathedral rings I made.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that, William?
25 years ago, probably.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, maybe longer.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to name drop because you've a couple of films, like The Crow and Batman Forever. What did you do for those?
Well, The Crow, they bought one of these rings that I made that bend on your finger.
Yep.
Also, Batman Forever bought one as well. But
how did they find out about you? Or, like what?
Well, I was in London at the time, and I think there's more going on. I've also made stuff for films. There's a New Zealand film, what's it called? 30 Days of Night, and that's a vampire film.
Okay.
I thought that was really good, and it has a really close-up photo of some guy getting strangled with one of my rings on. But yeah, the Batman Forever one is just a quick shot of one of my rings.
Oh, but it's good for your resume,
It
though,
is,
isn't it?
it is, yeah.
But a lot of famous people are like Billy Idol. You actually made for his walking stick, a design on the top of the walking stick.
Yeah, it was a skull on top of the walking stick.
Yep.
And his manager at the time bought it for him. I'm not sure what it was for, but he had just recently come off his motorbike. He had a motorbike accident.
Oh,
and
yes, I remember that.
badly damaged
Yep.
his leg. But I got free tickets to the show, and I'd only just glued this big, probably half a kilo of silver on the top of this walking stick onto the top. And Billy Idol comes out on the stage and he's going to sing around his head. I'm just thinking, this thing's going to fly off the end of this bit of wood and hit someone in the head and probably kill them. Because in that day, you had araldite glue. It was 24 hours drying. You didn't have quick drying glue.
Yeah, yeah. It didn't come off, though.
No, it didn't come off, no.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah. I never actually got to meet him, but he bought some of my jewellery from a shop in Los Angeles that I used to sell to.
Right. Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, well, Billy Bob Thornton bought a ring for Angelina, a Sacred Heart with the flame on top of it.
Yep, yep. What does that do for you, William? Like when famous people have got your jewellery, like it's good for your profile. But what does it personally mean to you?
If they're a nice person, then I'm really happy. But if I've met some real assholes.
I bet you have.
I met Joanna Lumley came into my shop, and she was such a charming person.
I could imagine.
She was so lovely.
Yep.
And
that was here in Melbourne too,
That was here in
wasn't it?
Melbourne, yeah.
Yep.
I used to have a shop on Gertrude Street in Fitzroy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was buzzing for about 3 days after that.
Well, she was a supermodel in her day,
Yeah.
and then all the early TV stuff
Yeah,
she did,
yeah.
and then of course absolutely fabulous. But I could imagine, like she would love your stuff. What did she buy? Do you remember? Of course,
Yeah, I do.
remember.
Yeah, it was a ruby ring with black diamonds around it. It's really funny because she came in, and I think she came in because I had my cat was sitting in the window. I have this little brass bed sitting in the window, and the cat used to sit in it. And she came in because of that. And anyway, she came in the shop, and I was texting my wife. I says, "You have to come in, Joanna Lumley's." And I had my back to her, and Joanna Lumley was saying, "Excuse me." I says, "Don't you hate it when shop assistants are sitting there on their phones?" But yeah.
Yeah. And did she know that you were the jeweller as well?
Yeah, yeah.
You weren't just there, like she didn't
Oh,
think,
no,
you
she
were
just
just a
think I was a shop
sale
assistant,
assistant.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that is good. And she said you were buzzing for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nick Cave used to always come into my shop when at Christmas. Every Christmas he'd come in and buy stuff for his kids.
Yeah.
He was always pleasant.
Brilliant. And Marilyn Manson suits your style very, very much.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. he does suit my style.
Yeah.
Not so much these days, but I think back then when I was making a lot of different style jewellery. I was actually involved in a really bad car accident when I was 30, and I was in hospital with these morphine drip going into me, and I just had the most darkest dreams. And when I came out of hospital, I started making the very dark sort of jewellery.
Okay.
I guess being an artist, I just sort of had to somehow get it out.
Get it out of your system. But the rings you've got on today and some of the ones are around us now, they're not dark. They're just beautiful pieces of art.
You don't really have any of the dark stuff.
Maybe I did that on purpose or without even realising. It's just so beautiful. And William, the wonderful thing is how varied they are. You haven't just got stuck in one particular style, have you?
I love just moving on. I'm always reinventing myself, I feel.
Is that hard to do? Reinvent yourself?
No, it's not. I feel like sometimes it just happens because necessity. You might go into a bit of a dark space for a while, but you come out of it, re-emerging.
Because so many people, artists that I know over the years, is that you can always pick up what is theirs and what's not. But looking around the set now, I'm seeing so much variation going on that it is exciting. And you said it's easy, but a lot of people can't get out of that rut of designing the same thing over and over.
No, I know. I don't know what happens there.
Yeah.
I can't really vouch for other people, but I always getting ideas. My head is just almost exploding sometimes with...
Is it that middle of the night, actually when you had the jet lag you said you were waking up?
Quite often I'll wake up.
Because I find, and believe me, I'm not an artistic person at all, but if I'm buzzing about something, I just can't go to sleep and I toss and turn, and then I get up and have to start reading a book again because I was excited about something that happened today. It must be like that all the time for you.
Yeah, well, I'm actually quite good at getting sleep these days. I feel like I've got it under control.
Okay, you can turn it off.
I can turn it off, yeah.
Okay.
But when it's buzzing, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Now, you said you used to have a shop, but you don't anymore. How are you selling your jewellery these days?
I just have my website, and I also actually have pieces on a platform called First Dibs. And First Dibs is like as it sounds, it's like a auction type thing.
Yeah.
It's not so much an auction, but it's more collectible stuff. They have everything from furniture, but it's sort of high-end, interesting stuff. There's really good stuff on it.
And it moves your stuff, yeah?
Yeah. I've got a lot of, customers in America that might not have seen my pieces. They see it on First Dibs, and then they Google me and look at my website.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. But I'm basically just selling on the website now.
You don't have the urge to have an exhibition?
I wouldn't mind one, actually. If anyone out there wants to...
I'm sure there would be dozens of people. Well, as a matter of fact, it was just a nice little segue. Marie Coote, who you did an exhibition at her gallery. Marie Coote, who came up with the Art Hunter name and the design that I wear every week, and she was the first person that I interviewed on the Art Hunter because she came up with the name. She would jump at the opportunity for you to exhibit again, or would you go more extravagant next time?
I don't know, maybe the NGV.
The NGV. Hey, there you go.
I'm actually not very good at pushing
selling
myself
yourself?
out there. I'm not very good at selling myself, no. I'm terrible at it, actually.
Well, I know people that could help you on that front with the NGV because they need to see what you're doing. I'm sure they're aware of it. Tony Elwood, the director of the NGV, he would be aware of what you do. Do you know that?
No, I don't know that, no.
Okay. I'll make him aware of it. I'll make him. So where do you work out of now?
I've got a little studio in the Nicholas building in the city here in Melbourne.
Famous building for artists?
Yeah, it's a famous building. In fact, I'm 2 doors along from where Valley Myers used to be in her studio.
Okay.
So I pretty much got the same view that Valley used to look out in her window, and
yeah.
it looks out over the cathedral, funny enough.
Yeah. Oh, handy for you. Handy for you. Have you ever had any inspiration from anything you've looked out and seen on that cathedral?
I'm always looking at the little archways and the little gargoyles at the top. Yeah. Sometimes at night when I'm working a bit late, it's get the moon coming over it. It's quite magical. Yeah.
And talking about the magical side of it, what's it like working in a building that so many artists are there and people wandering through the lovely old lifts that are in the building?
Yeah, I mean they used to have a lift attendant in the lift.
Yeah.
But now it's like an automatic one, and it's not so fancy anymore.
Yeah.
I used to quite like the attendant. She had pictures of cats and
all
over the walls, and there would be a heater in there, and you'd get in there. And
How good. It's a shame when, like, the tram conductors went on the trams as well, but unfortunately it's that progress, isn't it? That's what happens. But it must be nice, though, being in a building, because I love going in there and just wandering through, or going to a particular floor.
They used to have the open studio nights where everyone would open their doors, and that was very popular. I used to really like it, actually, because you get a lot of people coming through, and it's always fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun to actually go and have a bit of a wander around and see what other people are doing, because you don't really see what other people are doing. Everyone stays in their own little closed doors.
Okay. Oh, so there's not that whole, the neighbours in the building. You don't go and say hello every day, or
no.
I
guess some people do, but I pretty much stick to myself.
Right. Okay. So, William, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Are you going to continue doing what you're doing now, or have you got this plan that there might be something else ready for you?
I don't have a plan, no.
Apart from having an exhibition at the NGV?
Yeah, exhibition at the NGV. That'd be great. No, I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'll be making, because I pretty much just work week to week.
And are you still enjoying it?
I love it, yeah. I love it. It's not really a job, because I love it so much. I'm sure jobs aren't supposed to be like that.
Well, yeah, they can be, especially if you've created it yourself. Do you look back on your career, and think to yourself, I'm so proud of what I've done and what I've achieved?
Not often. I should do it more often, I think. Some things I'm not very proud of.
Well,
I've got a box full of them under my bench.
I'm sure some people would love to have a look at them. Or you could make a mobile out of it or something. Yeah. So, you're happy going along doing what you're doing?
I think, I am pretty proud of the fact that I have pretty much stuck to my guns and made unusual stuff and just made what I wanted to make, and not listened to other people.
Right, okay.
Not gone with the fashions, not gone with the trends.
Yep. Yeah,
just done my own thing.
Done your own thing, and people admire that, and I think also, William, that people want that uniqueness of what you're creating. There is always room for that. No matter what the trends happen, people are always looking for something that's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think some people are. Not everyone is, but
of course,
I do think a lot of stuff just. If it's the trend, that's, I don't know, it's probably like music, where if you're doing something too different, it's just not
saleable.
Not saleable, yeah.
Yeah, but that hasn't happened to you. You're always doing well. And you're picking up international clients all the time because of your website and all of that side of it, and that other side that you're on. Is it making you happier that you don't have to be selling yourself out there in the world, that people know of you, or they'll find out about you through another source and Google you, and then all of a sudden here we go again?
Well, I do still sort of have to sell myself. You have to sell yourself to a certain extent, and I'm not very good at doing the returning customer type thing. I pretty much just make what I want to make, put it on my social media, and that's how I'm operating. It's probably not the best way of doing it, but
It's working.
I feel like, yeah, it's working. And I don't really have time to put things on social media because I'm making jewellery all the time.
You need somebody to do it for you.
Well, I've tried that as well, but they just never quite get it. They never get what's going on in my head.
Oh,
It always just comes across a bit.
Are you a
quite me.
control freak?
I don't think I'm a control freak.
But you've got a particular style
yeah,
and manner that you want it presented.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I am a control freak.
See, that's why the couch is here. You're like, I'm getting in your head. I'm getting in your head. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, and congratulations on your absolutely magnificent career. And as you've got your hand up to your face then, those rings on your fingers are absolutely spectacular. Your mind is just an extraordinary thing. So congratulations on who you are, and your designs are just spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thanks
David.
for chatting with us.
Pleasure.
You've been watching The Art Hunter. I'm David Hunt, and we'll see you again real soon. Check out this guy's rings. Awesome, awesome, awesome.